Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here. It is Basketball Rewind, and we are back to take some medicine because it is draft season as well as the playoffs. I'd rather watch the playoffs than the draft, but I do like the draft. It's just we seem to have elongated draft season for the past couple years in a row as a Raptors fan. But in that case, just so you guys know, we're going to be talking about Zaccharie Risacher. Coach is going to start us off, and we're going to talk about a guy who, depending on which mock draft, he's top 10 in some, and he's number one in the others. We are basically in the lottery of the draft, so to speak. So this guy will probably not be around for the Pacers pick, just in case you were wondering, Raptors fans. So, Coach is going to take us away from there.
We have 6'9" forward from JL Borg. He plays in France and he is French. He's a good friend, I guess, of Big Vic, Victor Wembanyama. We have Zaccharie Risacher. It's like his numbers are, he's averaging around 11 points. He's going to be around 40% three-point shooter, 2 or 3 rebounds and assists per game. But he's 6'9". He's known as a versatile defender as well. His game can fit the modern NBA today of lots of offense. He's got good form, good shooter. He can really stretch the floor. Looks like he's a pretty good athlete as well. When I see him, we've had our guy SS Roll say, well, he's Nicholas Batum a little bit. We've seen some comparisons to Michael Porter Jr. as well. We'll see how that's going to be, but he's a bit of a mystery, quite honestly. We've had some of our friends at No Ceilings have him as high as 1, and we've seen some mocks where he is 2, and then some mocks where he's 10. And that just basically sums up what this draft is right now. But yeah, his two-way versatility, if he hits, is certainly going to be important moving forward. All teams are looking for that positional versatility. Pretty good movement shooter. To me, his game does fit. You guys are going to laugh this. His game fits a system probably more so than it does ISO ball. So I can see him certainly going anywhere. I don't know if I see him going number 1. I do see him possibly going number 2. Currently, right now on my big board, I have him at about 4. But once again, this is the problem with this draft is that you could get fired if you make a high pick with one of these forwards or guards or centers and they don't pan out. So Zaccharie Risacher, pretty good player. We'll see more, I guess, once more numbers come out about him and how he's doing with his team. It's been a bit of a struggle for him, I know, in the second half of the season.
Yeah, so I know that Wemby is one of the only people in that league that he's in right now, in France, to outscore him at that age. So, you want to give some, I'm not the most excited about every single prospect, but you got to give him some shine. And he's done a good job of being a sniper, and as well as he could be your prototypical 3-and-D wing, but with a little bit more upside than just being a 3-and-D guy in the future. Although I will say that from an offensive standpoint, he does have to do some work at the in-between game because, and I'm sure Beyond will get into this very shortly, his game for the in-between stuff is, I don't know if it's just what they have him doing or what, but it seems to be lacking. On the plus side, he has had stretches this season where he has been absolutely lights out. I do not consider him a movement shooter, but I do consider him an overall spot up shooter and a really good shooter just in general. He is someone, though, when he drives to the hoop, and he doesn't mind driving to the hoop quite often, he has decent speed and mobility, decent. He does have trouble finishing at the rim. This is one of the first things that I noticed about him. So for someone who is a, number 1 overall pick, this draft, man, this draft. But I do see him, there's been times when I've seen him get past his guy, go for a reverse, get stuffed by the rim kind of a thing. So there's a little bit of work that he needs to do both from a strength and conditioning standpoint, but even beyond that, I do keep in mind that he is 18, and I do keep that in mind for all of these picks. But for him, I do think that he would be one of the guys that, on the plus side, would be an instant contributor on the Raptors next year, just in terms of, yes, being able to fit the system or anything else, because I do think that he would have a well-defined role. Um, I will ask a question later, but I will get to it about on the Raptors. Um, but first, Beyond.
Risacher is an interesting test case. We're gonna find out how much this league believes in the 3 point shot as the focal point of the engine to run your offense. Because based on the young man's profile, he's your classic 3-and-D wing. He's, we'll get in the defensive side a little bit later on, I guess, but offensively, pretty much, I told you guys already, I feel no way to say it here. It was probably some of the most boring highlights I've ever watched in this case here, because all it was kickouts for three, kick out for three. Once a blue moon, if you got down the lane, it had to be almost a wide open lane, because some of the ones I saw there, he had trouble finishing. The athleticism is decent, but not popping out the gym type of athleticism. He's 6'9", 6'10", 205 or so. Not a bad weight class at the moment. You can see, to build up stuff. But if you want a 3-and-D guy, you want, I think one of our Spacers friends mentioned it in this case here, and I see what he's talking about more and more. If you want Nicholas Batum and draft him in this case in the top 5, there's your man. That's how I see it. I don't know how people on some boards have him as a number 1 pick overall, but I think this comes back to the point I mentioned initially. Folks so enamored with the 3-point shot. That's all they see. So the 3-point shot just smooths over everything else. Does he have much of a handle? Okay. Can you actually, have anything in the mid-range game? Absolutely zero. See nothing really from that part. Not even anything of an inkling or promise in my mind.
You don't think he has a upside there?
No, because I think the problem is, this is the thing where, and I guess we'll get the Raptors discussion, but because it will fit into that discussion better.
Yeah, well, I think, yeah.
He's such a line drive, straight line drive driver. Yes. I don't see how, we've had so much sample size of this now. It's hard for guys like that to now all of a sudden be a guy in this case has got, that's going to be able to kind of give you some juice or sauce to shake guys loose. That skill set. I don't think people realize that if you're born a line driver, the odds of you becoming the other guy we're talking about, I can't think of another guy who's been able to do it really. The closest might be Siakam. And even Siakam's not a natural, let me get off my shot and blow by you type of guy. You get the right matchup, he can get away with it. But he's not a natural, all of a sudden he's going to put the headsy on you and he's blowing by you. That's not what, those guys don't be like that. We got one on our full, we got a couple of them. We got 3-4 of them on our team. Where I just don't see that happening. I said before, we'll get into the discussion of the Raptors, but my concern with a guy like him, I said before, we're going to find out in this case how much this league just believes in just everything's about threes. Because I don't know if they've not been watching these playoffs like I've been, like every other spring. We get the same point every spring, and people don't seem to realize this. But go ahead, guys. Keep on drafting guys like this in the top 3 and stuff like that, and more guys will get fired. Keep doing it.
Well, hey, we don't really have a choice with this year's.
No. There's guys.
No, there are guys. Yeah. I mean, it's like overall, it's like apparently it's Reed Shepherd or Zaccharie Risacher, and that is it. That is all.
Once again, there's another guy in this case that fits that bill, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, so we'll see if we're at the 6th spot. If he's there, it wouldn't. Let's put it this way. It wouldn't be the worst choice around that area.
No, it's not.
Not around 6, yeah.
Yeah, like if he falls to 6, which I don't think he will fall to 6, but if he did fall to 6 and he's there as him or Matas, I'm not mad. There's a healthy debate to be had.
Just as players, I can see why in this case Buzella says he want a piece of them. I get it now watching more footage. I totally get it. Because if I'm just looking at the 2 guys, and we already done Buzella's already, I'm looking at him.
We have.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I don't even think it's close, personally. That decision to me would have been made. I'll be like Bobby Webster, boy. I'm ready to pick up and go get my briefcase and head out the door. I'm done. We're good, fellas. We didn't do nothing else for the rest of the night. Like, we're good. So, but hey, maybe you guys got a different thought process of it, but that's where I am. I'm not trying to down the kid. I just think in this case here, it's like maybe because in this case he kind of symbolizes kind of some of the things I think are right now not the best thing for the league and for the game. And that concerns me overall from a development standpoint. That's all I gotta say. And I don't want to put my fury out on him. He's a good player though.
Okay, I'll give a counterpoint here. So, because I don't want to just don't want to turn this into all of a sudden as a draft pod to a slander pod. So, what I'll say is this: I think when you compare him and Matas, for example, the perfect example. Offensively, there's going to be moments where he's going to look a lot more fluid, even with those straight line drives, than Matas does, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Matas is not as fluid of a mover, but when he's able to get to more spots and he's more prepared to get to more spots right now in his development. Now, Risacher can get there, I think, in theory, but to your point, and exactly when you were making your point, I was thinking of Keontae George. That skill set of being able to kind of be more of a mover, not vertically, but more laterally. I think that is something that is a tougher skill to develop, and you have to develop it early on. And I don't know if he's
people
developed.
realize like people take that for granted. Like, oh yeah, we just do. No, that's not something that you can just take for granted. That you can just do just like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that there is somewhat to say that there are some guys where it's like they're too lateral in terms of their movements and they focus on it too much and they get themselves into trouble. We've seen it with even Halliburton this offseason where I'm like, he's dancing way too much. He's trying to get, too fancy. Just simplify your game. But at the same time, there's balance to be had. So I do think that it's the harder skill set to develop rather than being a straight line. In a straight lines, he does get to the hoop. It's just so that gives me some hope because you think of guys like Norman Powell. He was a great straight line driver, and later on in his career, once he learned how to finish, and this guy has way more length and way more, height to be able to get there, then maybe he could be a good straight line driver and stuff. However, Norman Powell also, later on, did have some shake and bake to his game. But when he came to the Raptors, he was a straight line driver, primarily. I don't know if that changes anyone's mind, Coach.
So I think the comparisons that have come up quite a bit lately, I'll shout out to you, Mr. Woodley, are the forwards, Holland, Usilis, and Risacher.
Yeah.
So we look at their numbers traditionally right now per 36 minutes. Risacher actually doesn't win in any of the categories. He doesn't score as much as Ron Holland. He doesn't rebound as nearly as any of those two. The assist
Really?
numbers, no. Block numbers, no. Steal numbers, no. That's Ron Holland. But where Risacher gets interesting is some of the advanced numbers. He's an analytics darling compared to the other two. True shooting percentage is better. Effective field goal percentage is better. 3-point rate, projected NBA three. Offensive rating is 106.5. Usilis and Holland don't even have an offensive rating of 98. Defensive rating, it's better than Alex Sarr, but they play different positions and stuff like that, and also in different leagues. And it's not even close to Usilis and Holland. He's way better that way than those two. So from an analytics standpoint, he's much better that way. But from the traditional number standpoint, it's like it's not there. So I guess you kind of wonder how much are they going to take analytics into consideration, the Raptors, if they have a top 4 pick or a top 6 pick with him?
It's a good question.
We're gonna find out how much maybe them and Darko has to say.
And then talk Raptors.
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm thinking. So defense,
Mhm.
let's just get right into it. I think overall, as a wing defender, I thought he was pretty solid. He's good at disrupting passes. He's good on the perimeter. I don't necessarily think he's a point of attack defender, but he can guard out on the perimeter and probably, once he puts on some size, which is weird because he struggles with size on the offensive side. But on the defensive side, he's actually pretty good at like fighting through, screens and getting to where he needs to get to and being quite disruptive on both ends. The one other thing that I'll say really quickly, just because we kind of sometimes skip over, is the playmaking playmaking before we go back to the defense. His playmaking is decent. It's not great, but it's decent. He has simple reads, but sometimes making the simple read in half court settings is important. Um, Obviously there's more of his reads that are coming from transition offense. But there is enough to kind of make you think he can make the simple read to the cutting guy, when he's able to draw in some sort of level of I guess gravity, if you will. Um, Anyone else want to chime in on the defensive end? Because I think we're all ready to just go into the Raptors discussion. But yeah, Coach.
I think the word I think of with him is that he's responsible in this case here. And I think he's a coach's dream in that sense. He's not gonna lose you minutes defensively. I think that's a plus for him. Actually, it's one of his strengths. I think actually that
Yes.
you can plug him in and he can play right now. And in this case, after a couple of weeks, he'll figure it out and you'll be all right. So I think
And the offensive game, like he already has the swing skill, really.
yeah. But we will see. But I think that's where
I mean, with the shooting, because like the shooting
yeah,
alone
right.
opens up the rest. That if he had the right coach willing to try to force him to develop the thing, he at least has a chance of developing the other thing.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. No, he's versatility wise, he is responsible, as Beyond said. He can switch up on multiple different players, guards and forwards and stuff like that. I think one of the big questions with him, and we've had this discussion before, we've had it offline with other people, and Beyond kind of touched on it earlier when he mentioned about Busilis. Analytics versus motor. And motor has come into question, I believe, a little bit with Risacher. We had Tyler on this show saying, well, in one of the workouts, he didn't like he was really aggressive and pushing himself. That's a concern. Motor, you don't have to worry about Basilis that way. I don't think you have to worry about Ron Holland that way either. Risacher, it seems like there might be a bit of a question mark right now. Could that just be a blip? Maybe. Could that carry on a couple of years from now? Who knows?
Well, he
But
also faded down the end. Like he's come back recently, but he was fading a
yep,
little bit down the stretch of games recently. Didn't have a good stretch.
yep.
Super recently. And like personally, if I'm in this draft, I don't know if I want Nick Batum on my team. No offense to him. I know he's also gotten drawn comparisons to Michael Porter Jr. Although I do think that Porter brother was actually quite. I think he had a bit more offensive game, although a bad back in high school. I think he had a bit more juice to him. So I don't know if I agree with that, other than the fact that they're both like extremely tall, like 6'9", 6'10", maybe grows to be 6'11" or whatever the heck the combine measurements end up being. Obviously very young. So from that standpoint, I think that there's there. I do think he actually plays better defense than Michael Porter Jr. did, and more
Yeah.
aware than he was in high school. So, I will give him like the defensive side of things. I think is very interesting. Um, Coach, sorry, is there anything else? I feel like I interrupted you. My
No,
bad.
no. That was basically it. And I think that's going to be the question for scouts is yes, and from an analytic standpoint, there's promise there. But when you watch and you hear about some other scouts saying, yeah, bit of a motor question, that frightens me.
Yes. On the Raptors.
Especially with this team. Yeah, sorry,
Yes.
continue.
No, no, this perfect segue because on the Raptors, we already have guys that at least at times have been questioned with their motor. So, that's always going to be a concern. That's why I think all of us, I'm not saying that he is at the top of all of our boards, but he is on our boards, which is Stephen Castle for sure. But with that being said, you kind of focus back on this. Okay, you draft him next year. Question. Who's starting him or Grady?
I think he would get the start.
You think Risacher starts over Grady? I don't disagree.
Because he has the potential to be a better defender pretty soon past Grady. He might be a better defender the moment he steps in.
I think Grady is a better offensive weapon
I
and projects
agree.
to be every single year for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
He's no movement shooter like Grady. Like that's not
Ex-
close.
that is, but
No,
not just the movement shooting. but it's also like, Grady gets into the rim and is able to do these tough, crazy, like
Finishes.
acrobatic, like sometimes it's almost like, he does these Jordan-esque where he's like changing
Yeah,
hands and stuff like that. We don't
yeah.
have a lot of guys with that kind of thing. And then now in the later part of the year, it's like there's a certain amount and degree of touch that he's been able to develop against tough transition where like he has some of the biggest wings going on him and he's finishing over them.
As you said, so I watched Kyrie over about 4 arms in this case, shift it both ways, the drop it in. I don't know how there's no and one on that. Just on a side note,
Yes.
as we continue back and forth with this heavyweight battle here. I'm right now, so tense right now, so it's funny. Anyhow, going back to the Raptors, so that will calm me down. I would just say the other thing too is like if I've said this before, man, the Raptors right now have gone to a phase in their journey with the Messiah regime of like everything is about the system. If the system is king, this guy is the ultimate system fantasy.
So he's
Yeah.
basically the litmus test for the system.
Yeah, yeah. He's that dude. There you go. It's like, oh my gosh, like we have our man. That's if he's there, he's getting picked. Just telling you all right now. If he's there, he's getting picked.
It
All
is
all
Sar a system player,
Sorry, not quite the same.
right?
Not quite
Because
the
I, was-
same.
I was talking to someone else recently, and they were saying, but Sar doesn't shoot threes, and I'm like, who cares?
No, I agree.
Like long term, like we don't need the best fit. Why? Like,
Right.
listen, the one thing I'll give to Masai in his presser is this. He said we're gonna now. I don't know if you believe him or not, but that's a whole other discussion. And I could tell that something good happened.
Just the shot man.
Feel.
Just been out of this world, man. That's all I gotta say, man.
But
Paul George, my gosh.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
where was I? But with in terms of
Oh, he's in beside.
yeah, but yeah. So in terms of Masai, he said that he's going to pick the best player available. So if I guess we will put that to the test for sure this offseason because I'm not necessarily. I know there's no consensus best, but to that point, should we be picking a Reed Shepherd or a Zaccharie Risacher because they are the best fits for the team? I don't know because right now, like Scotty, part of the future. After Scotty, who hell knows?
But I think you just gotta look at how this team's being built. This team's being built by the system.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Right.
not
that's what
even
I
being
think too.
built around Scotty in a sense,
No,
which is interesting.
it's plug
People
and play.
people don't realize that, but it's
No,
not.
they
It's being
don't. That's a
built.
dirty little secret. It's plug and play.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, eventually Pirtle will move on because he is not part of what they want for the system.
No.
Even though
Yeah.
they're trying to talk that way, he ain't really part of the system. Kelly O, he is perfect for their system.
Yeah.
Mind you, these folks don't talk about defense at all.
This,
Just
this would be interesting because you wonder if he's there at the Indiana pick potentially because he has fallen. This is off topic, but if Kyle Filipowski would be selected,
yeah,
I wouldn't
Chance.
be entirely against it. I'm just I don't know if he's the right
I would be against it.
long term fit.
I would be against it.
Because it's like we already have that skill set. There's other guys that I'd prefer. I'm just not like screaming out of my. It's just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, what Beyond said.
Watch it. Can someone get a bucket for me? When we're watching games like this.
Well, no. Well, I mean, in theory, but like we saw how the tournament went.
Yeah, but the tournament in this case, the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, he was up and down. Yeah.
No, he was. Yeah, he was up and down. But my point is, when you start thinking and you're trying to get players to the next level, you gotta get some guys on your team that can get their own shot. You can't have a system to save you. The system will not.
Oh, I
save
see what you're saying. I thought you were focusing specifically on Cal Filipowski.
No, but he's kind of just the avatar for it, or Risacher.
Yeah, I think Risacher is a better because I do think that Kyle Filipowski showed that he can get his offense a bit more. But I understand what you're saying. You're talking about inside in terms of inside and stuff like that. There are other guys that I would pick over him in this draft.
You think Kyle Filipowski get his offense in this league?
We're about to find out. I'm not going to make that argument in favor or against. What I'll say is I think that he has a lot to learn, and we'll see.
I think with
You're always a
Risacher,
politician.
like be like Beyond had said, it's going to be interesting because I think this is going to be an internal battle if they were to draft him at camp time between him and Grady, who starts. And I think whoever plays the best defense might be the one there. Now
Yep.
with Risacher, because of his defense, you can play RJ off ball a little bit more. I might feel more comfortable, quite frankly, with Risacher and RJ versus RJ and Grady in that sense. To
Yep.
me, quite frankly, Grady might be more ready offensively come next year, but we were so bad defensively last year. And I'm not saying that's a Grady thing, that's a whole team thing. But if this kid's versatility is legit and he can switch off on guys, and he looks like he's got a fairly decent wingspan, that's going to come into consideration. And like Beyond said, my goodness, for Darko system, it's this kid. If they have their top pick and he's on the board and Sarr's gone, I would hope anyway, then it's probably going to be this kid. Because I can't say the same thing about Ron Holland playing if you
No.
put Scotty at the three or Scotty at four and Ron Holland. The shooting,
Your Ron
Mattez,
Holland is longer term. To your
yeah,
point.
Mattez, we know offensively last year, a bit. I think you had mentioned how it's not as fluid, even though we love the motor. I think defensively they would be certainly better, but we kind of worry about the lack of shooting, outside shooting. It just puts a lot more on quickly. We saw what Fred had to go through with the lack of outside shooting. So
Yeah, but
it's
you see what happens, right? Like now you focus too much on the shooting, and then you miss out on the long term potential guy who could be better than you know, or at least at the level that you have. You know, like that's why I would challenge this team to okay, if you really truly believe in the developmental system, then you know, like I'd rather. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I sound like a broken record with these things, but
no, but if it's about getting a bucket, it ain't Ricochet.
no.
There's no one on this team besides maybe the closest might be RJ. There's no one on this team to get a bucket guy.
Right.
And that's why I keep on wondering. My point is, just like the 6'9" vision was flawed from day one, pretty much, the way they were going about it with the philosophy, not even so much the actual theory of the philosophy, but the way they were executing it, where they think they could
Yes,
pick any dude that could just be 6'9" and long, and we'll teach them how to shoot.
because it's
That's a problem.
an idea. There's nothing wrong with the idea, and ideas can there's a ton of $1 million ideas. It's the execution that really makes people's careers. You'd have the most brilliant idea in the world, but if you can't figure out a way to make it happen, or you can't put the right pieces together, then it's a waste. It's just an
It,
idea.
it spells both theories spell the arrogance of this organization
And
because
we shouldn't be flip flopping away from that idea entirely because it seems like the league is trending towards that idea, honestly, in some way, shape, or form.
they
Like you
are,
look at the playoffs, the Magic, right? A lot of these teams are trying to get bigger, longer, faster.
but they all have guys that are skilled that can get the shot.
Well, that's the difference, right? Is
Right.
that they're trying to do it, but in a better way because they have skill. The problem is that we got rid of one of the people that had the skill, um, thinking that he wasn't skilled enough, not realizing, and then obviously we focus on what's remaining, and then it's like, in a way, some people are. I don't want to say force feeding the fit, but like we brought it up last time, the defensive fit is not really as clear cut as people think it is. So yeah,
No, there's
Does oh, sorry, I just got a
no,
question
no, go for it.
for you both. Whose skill sets benefits the core of Scotty, RJ, and quickly the most potentially of these? Is it
Scotty
of the
Archie
three?
quickly.
Yeah, is it Ricochet? Is it Holland or is it Busil? I know this is about Ricochet, but
Shea
it's going to
Butter.
come up. If whose skill set will complement them the best?
Out of the three wings. Can I add Cody Williams into this just because he's also a wing?
Sure, sure.
I'm not gonna
honestly,
rank him.
I
Uh,
think Matthias, he's got the most playmaking at this point, at this stage, probably. He's a fantastic shot blocker, especially as the weak side. He's got the size in this case to play 3 or 4. I think he's probably the best one of the bunch. Now, does that mean I think he's got the best ability to be like a potential star? No, I still feel of the bunch that you just mentioned, including Cody Williams, it's probably Holland in my mind of the four.
So I put Matas, Cody, Holland. If I'm talking about long term, can be a dude. It'd be almost in reverse order. Except that you put Matas above Cody. So basically, like in terms of the instant fit, I'd say Matas, Cody, because he's kind of like a high floor, lower ceiling. I think he can shoot. I think he'll offer a lot of the things that we were talking about from Zaccharie Risacher, except that I think long term. I think he has a little bit more pop. I think with his brother being his brother, I think he has the right, you know, group and a core group of people in his inner circle to really help that to happen after he eats some Wheaties.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
we could have a situation where what the brother's Kim and he might be Chloe, no respect, but that might be the case. Just saying. Just saying.
That could be the case as well. So that's why I always put him. If you notice, I put him in the middle each time.
Yeah. Not no respect to her, but she ain't her sister. That's all I'm saying.
Which in a sense is kind of like the Kardashians.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying. Chloe's fine. She walked by the street by herself, but then when she stayed up beside her sister, that's all I'm saying. So, I just think look, man, when it's all said and done, Matas in my mind has the intangible that we need too.
Yeah,
we got no dogs on this team, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it's like I would go with the only thing. That's why it's like for fit, and then for long term, I think Matas is. I think he wins out honestly against a lot of guys, including Zaccharie Risacher, just overall.
I love the fact he was coming after Risacher, man. Let's get it on. Let's dance. I was like, yo, that's what I'm talking about.
Honestly. So yeah, I mean that's really all we have for today. Unless you guys want to add anything more, Coach, do you have anything? Any final thoughts on Zaccharie Risacher?
I don't. I do think if he's there on the Raptors board and he's available outside of Sar, I hope that he might be their pick.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm endorsing it. I'm just saying.
I don't know if he's considered a winger or not. Maybe he's more a two guard, but I like Castle probably more than all of them.
Yeah, I think Topic might still be in play, but we will find out soon enough. With that being said, it's been Basketball Rewind. Like, comment, subscribe. It's been a draft episode. For the international prospects, just so people know, there's probably going to be less tape put on this because there's less availability of the tape, and there's also I do not want to get copyrighted on these things. So for the international ones, I'm probably not going to put as much tape, if at all, on these things. With that being said, take care, everyone. Peace. Have a good one.